All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you had a wonderful day today. Today's class will be focused on, excuse me, will be focused on asteroids. It seems as if we don't have a lot of knowledge on asteroids and how they affect the charts. I'll have you to know that the personal planets and all the other planets in your chart, sorry, this thing it takes its time to autofocus, okay? Those planets are very, very important. However, they're only a portion of your chart, okay? Less than maybe 30% of your chart. Excuse me a second. I'm trying to get all this shine off my face. All right. As I continue looking in this book, we're going to forward to page page 77, starting with the asteroids and Chiron. Some people pronounce it Chiron, some people pronounce it Chiron. And I'm going to read from this book what it says about asteroids. Thousands of star-like bodies known as the asteroids orbit in our solar system between Mars and Jupiter. Although Bode's law in 1792 predicted the existence of a planet in this gap, the first of these bodies was not discovered until 1801. On New Year's Day, the Italian astronomer Father Giuseppe Piazzi spotted a new planet, which he named Ceres after the guardian divinity of his native Sicily. The next few years saw the discovery of many other new asteroids, including Pallas, Juno, and Vesta. Chiron, traveling between Saturn and Uranus, was sighted in 1977 by Charles Cowell. As new bodies are recognized in space, their archetypal principles are awakened in the human psyche, meaning that as when men discover asteroids, the typical energy of it starts to resonate within the person. Since the discovery and use of the asteroids, many aspects of our culture and thinking have undergone rapid change. Like the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, the themes of the asteroid can provide a context in which to understand. And you kind of understand how and why these changes are taking place. The first 4 asteroids, named after 4 great goddess of antiquity, heralded the activation of feminine consciousness in both men and women. The publication of the first asteroid goddess, Ephemeris, in 1973 mirrored the emergencies of a woman's movement. Previous to this time, the only signifactors of the feminine in traditional astrology were the moon and Venus. And the only socially accepted roles for women were moon as mother and Venus as mate. As new feminine archetypes, Ceres, Pallas, Vesta, and Juno, became available in astrology symbology, new aspects of feminine expression fully entered into the consciousness of humanity. Consequently, society saw the widespread of education, sports, and other professions. It also marked the time of a rediscovery of women's history and the revival of the goddess in women's spirituality. Men also participated in this change by starting to acknowledge their intuitive and feeling self. Rejecting the macho and breadwinner stereotypes, they became involved in the birthing and raising of their children and entering into a traditional women's careers such as nurse, house husbands, and secretaries. The homosexual movement was another forefront of men's liberation where the expression of the feminine polarity surfaced in many men. Finally, on a level that goes beyond male and female, the upsurge of the feminine has become the foundation of the general consciousness expansion movement. During the last decades, we have witnessed an emergence of right-brained feminine polarity functions in the disciplines of holistic health, education, therapy, and increased psychic awareness. When placed in the birth chart, the asteroids and Chiron provide a depth and fine tuning that is simply not available through the usage or the using of traditional 10 planets situated between Mars and Jupiter. The asteroid function as the transformers between the energy systems of the lower and higher octave planets. The asteroids directly correspond to those physiological issues and transformative crises that men and women are now experiencing as a mass level due to the current activation of these new archetypal principles. Basically, only when the asteroids were discovered were these things happened naturally. Way before then, I'm sure the astrologers of the Moors and the what is the other? Yeah, so the Moors and other astrologers of those times knew about these asteroids, but they didn't really personify them because they didn't have any kind of technology to really see them, but they knew because they were passed on information from higher source, whatever you want to call it, whether you call it alien species, it doesn't matter. Just know that they knew information, but this information was lost for a while. And upon discovering these asteroids looking through a telescope, energy just automatically just came into play. And it's the same way when it comes to you guys' charts. Every asteroid, every midpoint, every single fixed star has a role in your whole personality. The house it fits in, that it ends up in, the sign that it sits in, is very important in the way that feminine energy of those 4 asteroids play a role in your life and your characteristics. If you want to learn more about the asteroids after this class, there's this book, like I told you, it's called The Asteroid Goddesses. It goes into more information than your workbook here. It's a very good book, and it was by Demetra George and Douglas Block. And we're going to be reading from that as well in this class. And we'll be looking at you guys' asteroids in your chart. So we're not just focusing on the goddess asteroids, we're going to focus on asteroids itself. Okay? Now, Chiron is a very huge asteroid, and it moves pretty slow because of where it's situated. But it has a major effect on people. Most persons, I would call not traditional modern astrologers, would a Chiron or Chiron to be connected to the sign Virgo because of its healing energy. of being able to tell and do things for other people, but not really for itself. So they equate it to being connected to Virgo, that investor as well. So Chiron, the centaur, represents the principle of holistic knowledge, being the healer. So ever since Chiron came around, holistic healing has been predominant around the world ever since it's been discovered. Chiron, according to the book, and we're going to read from here, Chiron, an enigmatic messenger to our solar system, was discovered in 1977 in an orbit between Saturn and Venus. Astronomers theorized that Chiron was not always part of our solar system, and at some point in the future will return to its origin in the galaxy. You hear that? That's amazing, isn't it? That a big old planet like Chiron was never a part of our solar system. While the asteroid functions as transformers between the inner personal planets and the outer social collective planets, Chiron acts as a bridge between our collective mind and the galactic dimensions. Chiron is our link to communicating with intelligence outside of our conscious reality and planetary systems. Mythology, Chiron was a centaur, half man, half horse, associated with shamanic legends of shapeshifters. He came from the nature kingdom of elemental shifters, so elemental spirits of the human kingdom, to give humanity teachings in healing and education. He taught how to communicate to our bodies on a cellular level and to nurture realms in order to extract healing cures from our dreams and from herbs, trees, precious stones, metals, and animal symbols. Chiron's current influence in contemporary society can be seen in revival of shamanistic lore and the introduction of holistic health and education techniques are revolutionizing modern medicine. Chiron is also the wounded healer and speaks to healing the wounded parts of ourselves. This process enables us to assist others through their healing crisis. In empathizing with the pain of others, Chiron deepens our spiritual understanding of the law of nature. The two Mystic Tarot, Liz Green, in the Mystic Tarot with Liz Green, associates Chiron with he as the inner spiritual teacher. One of the keynotes of the coming Aquarian age is for humanity to cease relying upon the authority of the external teacher as to discover the voice of the inner teacher. Situated in the solar system between Saturn, the outer teacher, and the establishment, which is Saturn, and Uranus, the voice of intuition. Chiron presents whenever we undergo a spiritual crisis where our inner intuition urges us to question orthodox dogma. In order to relieve Chiron's agony from his incurable wound from a poisoned arrow, Jupiter released him from his human immortality. He returned Chiron to his galactic origins by transforming him into this constellation of Sagittarius, half horse, half man. In the constellation, Chiron aims an arrow into the sky, which points to 27.5 degrees of Sagittarius, the galactic center of the universe. Chiron activation is our psyche at this time. It's to prepare humanity for contact with orders of intelligent being beyond the human realms. His message is that through the nature kingdom, we can find a key that will enable us to communicate beyond our current three-dimensional reality. This is some real AI, artificial intelligence stuff, isn't it? In charts and analysis, Chiron is the indicator of holistic perceptions in healing and education. The Chiron personality is wise, grounded, and practical reality and challenges established and limited views. The unskillful expression of Chiron can manifest as narrow and fragmented understanding, reliances upon dogma and authority, and self doubt or spiritual unrest. We will look at Chiron inside some of our charts. Now, Chiron moves very, very slow. So, for a lot of you, Chiron will be in the same sign. For a lot of us, that is. Chiron will be in the same sign. Okay, take a look at you guys' chart. Let me put this back a bit. It's going to be a little rocky. Yeah, I know that came up just now. Okay, so give me a second. I'm going to take a look at your chart. And I got to do something with my eyes. You laughing at me? Yes, you can. Okay. We have 3 people in class today. That's 2. Just you 2, right? All right, so kind of gonna look at your chart. I think you should know where Chiron is in your chart, shouldn't you? Do you? Yes, it's in the 5th house. In the sign of Leo. Right. We're going to get to that. We're going to look at both of you. And your last name is D, so it'll be in the D. Let's take a look. I think yours is... Where is yours? Yours is in the sign of Gemini. In the sign of Gemini. I want you to remember that. Now, remember we talked about the holistic energy, the holistic healing, and the place where you can heal people will be a wound for you. It's so deep that it's sort of, you can help people, but trying to help yourself in that area is it's pretty hard. It isn't the easiest thing. So if you were to give an interpretation of Chiron in the 5th house, and we use those keywords that we have in the book, and the keywords, the skillful words are healing, teaching, knowing, holistic. The unskillful expression are scattered, diffused, and ungrounded. However, there are more words associated with Chiron. We're going to go to Lord Google right now. And go to Lord Google because everybody thinks that's their savior. And the actual codex is, pretty much I like going to them because they are pretty good. Okay, so Chiron in the 5th house. Let's read from this so I could give you an understanding of what we're looking at. Chiron in the 5th house of a natal chart indicates some emotional wounds connected with how much the native played as a child. The 5th house rules recreational stuff, activities, and fun. Thus, it is present. Its presence here shows unresolved trauma related to the house's matters, which we already know. The fifth house rules children, it rules fun, romance, it rules these things. Chiron in the fifth house can also signify an early disappointment in a native's love life. A broken heart from a childhood crush is also possible with displacement. Generally, asteroid Chiron is responsible for traumas and their healing. Thus, the house where it is placed is a rather sensitive area of the native's life. In case that's the asteroid, in case that the asteroid is negatively aspect, especially if Mars, Saturn, or Pluto, if it's negatively aspected by those three planets, the native may have experienced quite a lot of suffering. On the other hand, a well-aspected Chiron indicates ability to heal other people in the respective life areas, as the native has learned quite a lot from his or her own experiences. Chiron in the house of creativity, of self-expression, may make the person shy to party. This placement can frequently give tendencies to sit in a corner and look at others having fun instead of becoming the heart of the company. This behavior can trace back to childhood, parties, or playtime, when the individual was feeling quite alienated by the other children, not invited to participate in the activities even if they yearned to do it. In addition, the native with Chiron in the fifth house may have experienced difficulty in love during their young years, may have been rejected by the childhood sweetheart, or even never expressed his or her affection towards that person. Such a rejection. Oh, you were. So speaking crude towards you. Okay. Such a rejection can influence the adult life, making him or her feel insecure about expressing feelings. Indeed, a fifth house Chiron individual may frequently feel as a child when falling in love, unable to think clearly and find the courage to approach the desired person. Her sexual or his sexual energy may have awaken rather early, definitely earlier than the other kids around her. The lack of stereotypes makes the child confused, as it's difficult to dive into the subjects such as love and sexuality when even your desired partner is not mature enough to be aware of them. The fifth house is also rules children, and Chiron placements can create some complications concerning that matter. The planet definitely creates a desire to have a child, yet can make the native very anxious about his or her ability to handle, have, or to grow it. The asteroid can give great relations with children in general. On the other hand, there are the native bear huge doubts about whether he or she will be a good parent, him or herself. Another fear is to create a of not being able to have children, or generally worrying about how they treat them. As a result, such a native is prone to be rather strict parent and generally give love in a wrong way. Her worries about the child future can make the relationship rather complicated. In case you have this placement, it would be a pity to allow your oversensitivity poison your relations with your offspring, or even poison your thought of having another child. Actually, you may not even notice some difficulty traits that you have as a parent because you're so caught up on this energy. Now, allowing Hey Candy, we're talking about Chiron, okay? And the placement. So I'm gonna look at your chart and see what Chiron is in your chart. Chiron in the fifth house is quite good for people who work with children. No matter if they're teachers, sports trainers, or child psychologists, Chiron may gift them with great ability to heal young individuals and empower their dreams. Having experienced disappointments herself or himself, he or she knows how to aid youngsters in order to get the disappointment out of their systems. In addition to the fifth house, Chiron persons may be an expert in romance advice, even if his or her own romance life or romantic life does not correspond to the advice that they give. She can be very helpful with tips of love. Usually, such people do not become psychologists for couples, but just support their friends and acquaintances with coaching about their love lives. If you have this placement, which you Shekinah, we strongly advise that you examine most of the natal aspects that are connected to Chiron so you understand the whole big picture. Sometimes by strengthening the planet by your knowledge, you could be able to, bypass those energy. Chiron, if Chiron has a sextile trine, it can also strengthen the planet. And you can indirectly heal yourself without having to dedicate a lot of time and effort in researching your childhood years with the aid of a professional. Most of the time, Chiron is a planet that you don't feel the energy of it because you are it. And until you take a look at your chart, it doesn't make sense why you act the way you act when it comes to Chiron. But I'm sure, like you said, kind of does this hit home for you? Chiron is not the easiest. And it's doubled because the fact that you have it in Leo, and Leo naturally rules the fifth house. Naturally rules the fifth house. The energy of Chiron is in the fifth house is double because it's also in the sign of Leo for you. Take a look at Candy Johnson. Well, when you look at the aspects that Chiron has, you look at the planets, the trine and the sextiles. Those planets, those planets are the ones that you could heal through. And yes, Kanye, it is the wounded healer. And your Chiron is sitting in the sign of Taurus in the eighth house. Let's take a look at Ambi. You have Chiron in the sign of Gemini in the 11th house. And we all know what the 11th house deals with. It deals with friends, groups, organizations. It deals with your hopes and wishes, your humanitarian efforts, which is also, groups and organizations. Right. So those are what we're dealing with. When it comes to the your Chiron inside the 11th house. So The natal Chiron in 11th house of a natal chart indicates some emotional wounds connected with the natal's friendships and loneliness. The 11th house rules friends, organizations, groups, humanitarian efforts. Thus, the asteroid presence here shows unresolved trauma related to the house's matters. Chiron in the 11th house can also signify an early disappointment in childhood concerning group activities, as this native may have felt rejected by children communities. Generally, asteroid Chiron is responsible for trauma and their healing. Thus, the house where it is placed is rather sensitive area for the native life. In case as the asteroid has a negative aspect, especially like we said earlier with Mars, Saturn, or Pluto, the person may experience quite a lot of suffering. That's negative aspects like squares and oppositions. On the other hand, a well aspect Chiron indicates the ability to heal others in the respective area of the 11th house, as the native has learned quite from their own experiences. Chiron in the house of friends may make the person like an alien when groups of people. So these persons don't actually feel very welcome in groups. So they could be very, very good one-on-one, but when it comes to groups, they sort of like, yeah, sit back. And this person can make them very shy being around other people. You see, sounds about right, eh? And it makes them unable to express their thoughts and feelings in groups. The chart owner has a subconscious fear of not being accepted or even of being ridiculed. He or she feels that her thoughts or his thoughts, thought frequencies, cannot synchronize with the other group members. Misunderstandings can arise. And even if she is accepted in a group, he or she will always feel as an outsider. This behavior can be traced back to childhood years when other children may have left her outside. You say nailed it. Of organized events. Or you could have been bullied. Such a person feels quite better when his or her friendship are not structured in groups, and when he or she sees every person individually. As chart owner with Chiron in the 11th house, you may have been abandoned by your friends, which will induce fear about making new friendships. You may get constantly stressed, worrying that your friends might abandon you. In extreme cases with Chiron, has bad aspects like to Pluto, Saturn, or Mars. The friends may have stabbed you in the back. Now, taking a look at your chart, as we look to see if you have any negative aspects. Well, we're going to do it with everybody, but since we're reading, as you can see, Chiron is a heavy hitter. It is a heavy hitter. And you have Chiron opposite Saturn. Not very good for friends. You also have it opposite Uranus. You need to learn how to negate that negative feeling that you get in with groups of people. Because you also have Chiron conjunct your sun. Which means that even though you feel a sense of heaviness being in groups of people, those groups of people always make you into the leader. I mean, I knew that. I knew the reason for that a long time. when looking at your chart. I'm expressing it to you. So this natal placement is typical for chart owners who have become victims of what we call bio vampires. Bio vampires are other types of individuals that take advantage of people. So people like yourself normally draw these people, and you have to learn how to, you know, not just keep a fair distance, but also be connected. But the reason why you draw them is because of your thought process. Your thought process is, I'm going to get stabbed in the back. Somebody's going to do that. So your mind helps to perpetuate that thought. Chiron in the house of friends may make this person also to feel as if they should not be in group situations like outings. Well, even if you're saying what Chiron is saying is that your perpetuating thought creates a reality. Sorry, your thought creates a perpetual reality. The chart owner of Chiron, so the 11th house Chiron person may have visions of a better society where the groups will function in a healthier way, and of trying hard to be good for friends, yet receiving the opposite from them. Most people who have like Chiron in the 11th house are always there for their friends. The friends are never there for them. They're the ones that normally be like, you know what, I will help you. And then when it's time for them, it's like, you can't find anybody. The 11th house rules one's wishes and hopes and dreams about the future. And Chiron in the 11th house has an adverse effect on them, as the native dreams may be frequently shattered. He or she may be afraid to wish new things for the future. If you have this placement, which you do not get discouraged though. Maybe reality doesn't allow you to fly away towards your wishes. So you're signing off? Okay. Nothing more than urges to heal your wants. When becoming a friend with someone, always question yourself whether you really like him or that person is just covering your social needs. Chiron in 11th house can bring the native desperate choices concerning friends. Do not let this happen. Even if loneliness is an issue for you, it is better to have fewer friends than bad friends. In addition, when you enter social groups, double check the quality of the members. Usually 11th house problems are rooted in the groups of people that you choose and not in your own self. It's very absurd to complain about being rejected or mistreated by the group when you yourself can see all the members have bad characteristics. People who have Chiron in 11th house could be very, very good counselors, psychologists. They're very helpful with friends. Oh, that's why you say you sign off, you say that hit home? Do you remember that? Chiron person can become a very good psychologist in the field of counseling. How do you feel about that? So we're doing the placements itself, and then we're going to do the signs, okay? Right. because they feel the healing energy. My Chiron is in my 10th house. Anyway, so Candy, your Chiron or Chiron, however you pronounce it, is in the 8th house in the sign of Taurus. Natal Chiron in the 8th house of a natal chart indicates some emotional wounds connected with death, sexuality, or even the occult. These wounds are hidden in the native childhood and might even partially been erased from their conscious memory. The 8th house is ruling all taboo subjects, and thus such experiences may have been automatically categorized by the person brain as so taboo as to not be reachable. Chiron in the 8th house can also signify an disappointment connected to the use of other people's resources, which automatically makes this subject hurtful. Take in mind that the 8th house also rules inheritance as well, which automatically makes this subject hurtful. Someone of this native close person may have made him or her embarrassed or hurt when he or she was asked money or something else that was not his or hers. As a result, an individual will always feel uncomfortable when using other people's assets and possessions. He or she will not borrow money and generally will try to use as less as they can objects that belong to others. Most people who have Chiron in the sign of Taurus in the 8th house would literally just keep things because they don't want to be able to have to depend on other people and their possessions. Generally, the asteroid Chiron is responsible for traumas. And in the healing, like we said before, when it comes to your chart, once it has a negative aspect to Mars, Saturn, or Pluto, the suffering may be even greater. Chiron in the house of sex may make the person shy to indulge in sexual relationships. Native might have experienced sexual abuse, or at least an attempt at it. Alternatively, as a youngster, he or she has formed the perception that sex is something rough and cruel, being afraid to practice it when the time comes. There are possibilities of sexual dysfunction, mostly due to psychological reasoning. The individual will not trust a partner easily, so he or she might refrain from sexual acts longer than other people, which goes in bouts of being celibate. Other people might consider this person conservative about the views on sexuality. The truth is that a person with Chiron in the 8th house could even become a sexual healer if and when he or she reaches the level of understanding the reasons behind their trauma. She may be able to heal and guide people who have similar ones. This will happen even if he or she does not manage to heal her own wounds. The native will be way better as an advisor to others than for herself or himself. It may take a long time until the individual may be able to merge totally with the partner through sex. Mutual respect, care, and stability are the best ways to open up those tightly closed gates. In addition to the persons with Chiron in the 8th house, they may have experienced traumatic loss as a loss of a dear person during the childhood. Thus, death is synonymous with pain in their mind. He or she may be constantly worrying about the death of beloved people that are connected to them, as he or she does not want to experience again the same type of emotional pain. As the eighth house is ruling inheritance, the presence of Chiron in the eighth house may create turbulence concerning those issues as well. The adult life, the individual may experience stress in the young age due to the family arguing over legacies of a deceased person. During this adult, during his adult life, Chiron can also complicate some subjects and bring sorrow through alienation with relatives when time comes to share resources, left with someone who has passed away. Candy, are you following what I'm saying? The asteroid presence in the eighth house is also not good for tax related issues. And all who have this placement are advised to be careful when taking loans from institutions. The eighth house is also rules the occult, and Chiron indicates fear towards it. This fear might be connected with some real metaphysical experiences in the childhood, which means that even as a child, there may have been stories of people doing witchcraft or voodoo, whether it be in your family, and this created a lifelong fear behind it. Many kids develop fear towards the unknown, and it's just a need of being victim of just a need of a little bit more of a vivid fantasy to create stressful situations from nothing. On the other hand, displacement can be indeed an indicator of being a victim of magic and having a constant emotional trauma connected to attacks from the outer realms. In addition, a person with Chiron in the eighth house may have fear secrets and their revelations. He or she will be always cautious about what she speaks about to other people, as she has probably been betrayed and seen her secrets getting out into the public. Gemini's placement creates creates a good yet hurt person who can experience victimization or exploitations from people with darker souls than them. This can put him or her in a nutshell, as she or she feels a constant urge to defend from possible manipulators or manipulating them. This can put them in a nutshell, as they feel a constant urge to defend themselves from manipulators. If you have this placement, we strongly advise that you be careful. One must examine the native aspect of the Chiron and understand the whole big picture as opposed to just the little one. Does that ring a bell to home to you, Kenny? What we're going to do, we're going to use Chiron in different placements. And what I want you to do is I want interaction from you. So what you're going to do is I'm going to call, I'm going to say Chiron in this house. And what you're going to do is you're going to list off to me the energies that it brings there, what it does to the person, based upon the keywords that have been beating into your heads about the different houses and the keywords that are connected to them. Are you guys up for that? Okay. All right, Shekinah. All right. That's good. So, Chiron sitting in. That's okay. I understand. Chiron sitting in the second house. What would be the energies of Chiron sitting in the second house? This individual was me, and I had Chiron in the second house. What is the second house? What does it represent? Yes, both of you are correct. Self worth, a lack of self worth and value is yes, and assets. Right. So, exactly. So, what would you say Chiron inside the second house? Give me some keywords. Remember now, Chiron also brings a sense of fear around certain things. So, my Chiron sitting inside the second house, what would you say? What would be, what would I be good at? I'll be good at helping people to what? What kind of advisor would I be? What kind of counselor or advisor would I be? Or be good at doing if I had Chiron sitting in the second house? Right, exactly. I'd help people to gain financially. Also, I could also help people to, like you said before, help people with their self worth. Right, so that's the words there. Financial advisor. Think about it like this. And we're going to do a bit of synastry. If my Chiron is sitting inside your second house, how would I be healing you or helping you to heal? Yeah, that's another thing, motivation. If we have the Mercury to speak on it. If the rest of the chart, you know, influences being a public speaker, then that will work. Shigana. But if somebody has Chiron in your second house, if they have it sitting in your second house, with no, adverse aspects to hard planets, this person could basically be somebody who can give you good advice financially, right? This is not correct. Well, that's a good question, Kenny. Well, you're being forced to, you know, because like the wounded healer, this isn't something that is outside of him. He has that wound that is incurable. So he faces this fact. He has to literally face this thought of dying from this wound. So you literally are faced with this fear straight through. So you got to literally, you don't have to look at a wound of yourself and knowing that this is bleeding out and you have nothing. You just have to learn how to patch it up and keep it flowing, keep it going, and still heal other people. If you don't worry, if you don't check for it, it'll bleed out. So what you do is you patch it up, and when that wound starts to hurt again, you patch it up again. So it's sort of like a constant. It doesn't just disappear. Yeah, be truthful with yourself. Right. So I said second house, I should take 10. Anybody nosy enough to want to know exactly what mine says in the 10th house? Okay, Kevin. Well, my Chiron is sitting inside my 10th house. 10th house deals with career. It deals with, you know, your image, your reputation. And when a person has Chiron in 10th house, there's some emotional wounds connected to how I perceive my reputation, how people feel, towards me. So let me give you a little readout. While also the fame of one person carries. Chiron presence here shows unresolved traumas created by the most dominated parent, usually the father, who also by any other type of authority. Generally, the strong trauma of this placement can create is rejection by the father. So let me explain something to you. When I was younger, my mom and my dad were married. And at one point my father, as much as I, revere him, he at one point had beaten my mom. And I witnessed this. And me being, nobody, I was 7 years old. I went and I go on and rushed because we were on the island. And I went and rushed and told the cops. And ran straight to the police. I said, my daddy's beating up my mommy. She's bleeding. She's bleeding. I didn't know what to do. And when the police came and told them that the son went and said this, from that point on, me and my dad relationship deteriorated because he didn't really check for me like that. He mostly was more focused on my sister and my other siblings until I got a little older. But the damage was already done. He'd ignore me, do stuff like, check for my sister and my brother and what have you. So that was a little bit of a rift. So Chiron sitting in that placement showed that. All right. So as it reads out, the parent may be constantly making the chart owner feels unworthy and insecure, no matter how much the young native strives to become accepted. Right. So I play basketball. My dad would teach other people how to play basketball, and I was like, you know what, I'm a little better, and he would give props to everybody, and I would be like, yeah, good shot, So I felt a little rejected. So this reputation of being a, very athletic showed up. The part that can hurt the most is that the parent will frequently diminish the child in front of the eyes of other people. This public humiliation can create a disastrous archetype for the youngster's subconscious, which takes a lot of effort to heal. Curiously enough, such a young native does not usually rebel, but accept the parent's opinion as something wrong or something to correct, convincing his own self of his unworthiness. Chiron in this house of career can create obstacles in understanding what would be our dream job. So take in mind that I've been searching for jobs per se, and I've had 47 different jobs. The fact that Karen is sitting in my 10th house would have perpetuated that, would have caused that to happen. A 10th house Chiron person may be afraid to follow his or her dreams or generally believe that failure is the only possible outcome. On the other hand, a Chiron is the healer asteroid. He may generate success in all jobs connected with healing, such as native can excel in careers as medical institutions or as a public advisor. They have the ability to heal the masses and pass through television or other public media great advice concerning healing. With a well aspected Chiron, one can even become a very famous healer, even if his own career life does not correspond. Stickiness pattern. They have the ability to heal the masses and pass through television. Yeah, okay. Even if their own career, okay, we went down. Usually, natives with Chiron in the 10th house are the best ones for becoming life coaches through developing strategic patterns that can be used in one's surroundings. People of Chiron in the 10th house can also be afraid of governmental institutions and the authority that they exercise towards people. As children, they might have felt traumatized by law enforcement, like here, hence the reason why I felt the way. When the police went and told my dad, I was like, these police. This does not mean that force was used towards them, but some dramatic event might have happened in front of their eyes. Since then, their deeper subconscious layers are creating anxiety concerning possible clashes with government institutions in the future. Such a person will be more stressed than others when encountering a policeman, and generally, his body will be alerted even if no apparent reason exists. This also happens when I go before courts. I'm like a nervous wreck, even though I know what I know. A typical outcome for a 10th house Chiron is to create a late bloomer. People with displacement will tend to find their place in the social system later than the average person. Yet, this might even be a blessing, as they will not rush to create a career which is not suitable. The best way to make Chiron function in a good way when the 10th house is to empower your Saturnian traits. Let your emotional part aside and concentrate on whatever Saturn and Capricorn are dictating. The best remedy for the ring planet is hard work and cold blood. You must make your skin thicker and teach yourself not to take other people's negative comments seriously. Becoming a workaholic will eventually make you progress so much that you will achieve your goals even if you are an underdog. A small magic trick that Saturn will like you to do is not only become more serious, but even look so. Prefer dark or black colors of clothes, conservative style, and generally try to appear professional. Saturn loves modesty, minimalization, and all the things that signify seriousness. Okay, as you can see, this is why my bout of, going on YouTube and editing my videos, which I have not done as yet completely, is muy importante to me. But as you guys are seeing, Chiron is very real in your chart. There's no mistaking it. This is the part of your life that you fear the most. It's the part that makes you tremble the most. It's the part of your life that you will have to work out. Yeah, Chiron is the secret teller. Yeah, exactly. So it's the part of you that you have to work out the most. It's not the easiest thing. However, once you be brave and you patch up the part of you that are, and not just patch up, you actually see it, accept it, and patch it up until that wound comes again, the pain comes again, and you patch it up again. It is a constant effort. It isn't something that can be that you get over instantaneously. It's something that you have to have constant work on so that you don't have this thing to deal with, whether you believe in an afterlife or in a past life or a next life or not. It is the best thing for you to do is to continuously work on it. So, like anybody else, when I look at your chart, take a look at the aspects. Take a look at the aspects, whether it be trines or sextile, if it has a good connection to another planet. This is the area that you can actually heal the wounds. All right? And the part where the hard aspects are the parts where the wounds seem to be gashing open more. And by knowing this, you have power. This is why knowing your chart is important. This is why learning this thing that I'm trying to teach you is important. As you can see, every single time that we have a class, you realize that you learn something new about yourself. And that is the purpose of this class, is for you to be able to learn yourself and to learn the people that are around you so you can understand why they go through what they go through and why they do what they do. It's very, very important. Any questions when it comes to Chiron? You guys have any questions? How do you guys feel about Chiron in your chart? Let's get a bit, let's talk about it on a personal level. How do you guys feel about Chiron and what it said about you in your chart? Seeing that there's only a few of you in the class today. Oh, you don't have no questions? Okay. Oh, okay. And I understand. It's Chiron could be that way, and especially inside your 8th house, it would feel that way. But it does answer a lot of questions, doesn't it? And I'm glad that you guys are taking this up. I am just as privileged and honored as you guys are. Yeah, that's fine. I totally understand. Yeah, I know that could happen. That's how it is. So as you can see, we're going to go into a series of asteroids, the new and the old. You got some homework. We got going into an hour into the day, in just an hour, as you can see. Your homework is page 79, and Another thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to find 3 people with Chiron. This means that you need to find their time of birth. I'm giving you assignments right now. It's page 79 to be finished. And also, in addition, finding 3 persons that are connected to you. It doesn't matter whether they could be your neighbor, your friend, your co-worker, it doesn't matter. You can find their time of birth, their date of birth, and I need for you to find out their house placement of Chiron. On Thursday, we are going to do the sign placements and the energy that Chiron does when it brings it into the sign. All right, so I'm going to repeat that again. Your homework is page 79. And also to find 3 persons that are connected to you in any form or fashion. Find their time of birth, their date of birth. And find their Chiron. And what I'd like for you to do is list the area of life, the things about them that they fear the most, and the part about them that they can actually help people with and help people to heal. All right? So got that? Hello? So that ends today's class. We're going to put an hour, not an hour and a half today. And I'm looking forward to that homework by Thursday. Thank you very much. Hope you guys had a very informative class today. And remember, do not let Chiron rule you. You rule Chiron. Okay. Have a great night.